throughout my high school and university life, I've picked up a few tips and tricks that helped me exponentially in increasing my productivity and getting good grades in high school and university. So I first want to talk about some anecdotal tips that personally helped me, and then afterwards I wanted to talk about some scientifically backed tips that have like scientific evidence kind of backing it up. And then I want to talk about some apps and websites that I used some point throughout my academic life that really helped me. So the first tip that I have is filming a time lapse while you're studying. As someone who has little self-control over their phone, this has helped me a lot with not being distracted on my phone. Next, so if you have an iPhone, you can set a screen time limit on your settings. So instead of just clicking ignore and give me 15 more minutes or ignore for the rest of the day, get a family member or a friend that is really strong-minded to set the password for you, so you literally don't know the password and you can't continue scrolling on the apps. Thirdly, I always like to keep a clean and tidy workspace, because I feel like if my workspace is messy, then my mind is messy. If I have a clean workspace, then I have a clean mind, and that includes closing all of the unnecessary tabs that you have on your computer. And that involves keeping organized documents as well as an organized desktop. Next, the thing that I like to do is breaking large tasks into smaller tasks. So for example, if I have a huge project or essay, research essay due, I would first split it into doing the research and then maybe writing the introduction, writing the first paragraph, and split it into different parts of the to-do list, and then schedule those different parts, because I'm not going to be doing the entire essay at once, but I still want to see my progress, so that's why I split it into smaller parts. Lastly, the thing that helps me a lot is time blocking. I know that a lot of people might not like it, and that's because whenever you time block or you plan out your day or whatever, it takes up so much time, which is not what you're supposed to do. For me, I set myself like 10 minutes and I finish time blocking for the week in those 10 minutes so I don't waste time. I think what happens with a lot of people is that after they're done time blocking or planning out their day, or they buy pens and notebooks and stuff, they already feel like they have done the work, something. I don't know if this is real, but I like to call it the illusion of productivity. So they don't actually do their work. So don't fall into that trap. Now let's talk about some scientifically backed tips. That's not just say it'll work for everyone, it's just to say there are studies that support them. So the first one is exercising before you study or you do work. Exercise is obviously a healthy part of any lifestyle. Studies have shown that physically fit students actually do better on academic test scores, and a lot of positive impacts of physical activity on cognition as well as memory and the size of the hippocampus. If you're interested on reading more, I've linked all the articles in the description box. The next tip is to keep your phone far away from you. Because even if it's in the same room or it's turned off, it still will have a subconscious effect on you. So what this study showed was that working memory capacity and fluid intelligence was increased the most when the phone was in the other room, more so than if the phone was just in the pocket or bag, or if it was just on the desk. Next, there's this thing called the Pomodoro method. I think a lot of you might have heard of it. It's basically when you study for some time and then you take a break for some time, and it's backed by evidence suggesting that taking breaks will actually increase productivity in the long run. So what their study suggests is that human cognition is actually a finite resource, and then it can get depleted, and self-control and decision making may decline. So therefore we need breaks in order to recover between studying. Now, to elaborate more on the Pomodoro method, people usually start with studying for 25 minutes and then taking a break for 5 minutes. And then after 4 sessions of this cycle, you take a longer break, like 10 to 15 minutes. Once you become better at focusing, you can increase how long you study for. For example, 50 minutes of studying and then 10-minute break, and then you repeat that 4 times, but it's up to you how long you want to. Next, this is super important, and that is sleep. I have personally never pulled an all-nighter before. I don't know how people do it, but I always try to get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep at night. I know that it's hard, but do you really want to watch that 3 episodes of Riverdale, or do you want to sleep for 3 more hours? Lastly, I know it's really easy to get distracted when you're studying, and something that can help with that is actually playing music in the background. Now, Apple Music and Spotify have already a lot of playlists that have curated a music collection for you, so you don't even have to make your own playlist. I listen to Apple Music's Study Beats a lot. Now let's get on to websites that have been useful for me in the past or right now. So the first one, when I was in high school in math and science class, I used Wolfram Alpha, which is this super computer Google type of thing that can answer every single question you have for it, whether that be math, biology, physics, and it'll actually show you step by step how to solve the question as well. The free version doesn't show you step by step, but the app on your phone, or if you get the premium subscription, I think it's like $5. Don't quote me on that. Way cheaper than a tutor. So the next website that I found really helpful is Slides Carnival. So this is a website that gives you Google Slides or PowerPoint presentation templates and themes for any presentation that you have. And I know in high school and university, basically in all majors, you have to do a presentation at least one point in your life. So these give really cute and aesthetic themes and presentations that you can just put your information in. Now, adding on to the presentation aspect, another cool app to take your presentation to the next level is Pear and Mentimeter. So if you have to have an interactive component in your presentation, these things are cool because you can ask the class a question and they can type their answer straight into the website on their phone, and then everyone in the class can see the responses on the slides live. So that's kind of taking your presentation to the next step if you have to have an interactive component. Next is Khan Academy, which I have literally been on Khan Academy since grade 7. It's so fun just learning new things and getting points and stuff, and it actually has a lot of really difficult concept. Like, it's not for elementary, even high school people. Like, there's really advanced stuff on there. So even if you're struggling with a subject in high school or university, most likely we'll have a course on Khan Academy that kind of will explain it in a different way. So I found their videos super helpful. Next is LibGenesis, which if you are in university, you know that textbooks can be super pricey, and like 75% of the time you only use like a few pages in the textbook. So before you purchase a textbook, maybe go to LibGenesis and search up the name and edition of the textbook to see if it's there for free. Yeah, this can save you a lot of money throughout your university career, because I still have a bunch of textbooks from first year sitting in my closet that I need to sell, collecting dust. So the next website is tomatotimer.com, which is a timer for the Pomodoro method that I talked about earlier. It's super simple, free to use. You can set your own time for the study period, the break period, and the long period, and it just gives you a little ding when it's over. So if you're looking for a Pomodoro clock, that one's pretty good and easy to use. And lastly, for the websites, there's Skillshare. Not sponsored, but I wish it was, because I literally have been using Skillshare for this whole quarantine. It's actually how I learned a lot of editing tips and study tips. I watched Ali Abdal's Skillshare class, which was pretty good. One of my favorite YouTubers, my role model. And if you go to a popular YouTuber's video where they're sponsored by Skillshare, you can get like 3 months for free, I think. And that's what I did, but then after that, it's $20 a month. So the last section is apps. So those apps for your phone and your laptop. For your phone, I really like the app Flora, or the one you have to pay for is Forest. So they're basically the same thing. You can plant trees for a set amount of time that you want to study or you want to spend with your family or whatever. A set of amount of time that you don't want to be on your phone. You plant that tree, and if you go on your phone or you exit the application, then your tree will die. And the goal is to get as many trees as possible, and you can also invite your friends so you guys can like compare your forest and stuff, which is really useful if you have a bad phone addiction like I used to have. Next, a few apps that I like on the iPad are Goodnotes. That's where I take all my notes for math and physics, because you can't really type them. And I used to use Notability, but they're both pretty good apps. It's just a personal preference, you know? So lastly, for typed notes and for classes that require a lot of memorization, like bioanatomy, physiology, and stuff like that, I use Notion. There's this thing that is in Notion that you can't really find anywhere else, which is the toggle feature in Notion, where you can ask yourself a question and then write the answer below it. I actually learned this from Ali Abdal's Notion video. I'll link it down below because it was super helpful. There's a big learning curve at the beginning, but after you get through that learning curve, it'll become super easy after. So I can definitely make a video about Notion in the future if you guys would like. On the laptop, there's also this app called SelfControl, and you download it and you put apps on your blacklist, or you put websites on your blacklist. So let's say I get super distracted by YouTube and Netflix and Facebook a lot, so I'll put those 3 on my blacklist and I set a time for it, and then when I press start, there's absolutely no way that I can go on those websites. Even if you delete the app, or even if you completely restart your computer, you can't go back on your decision. Like, you can't go on those websites. So that's for if you have a really bad addiction to a website. It's literally, you cannot go on the website for that set amount of time that you set it at. Super good app. I got it for free. So next is this app called Anki, which is a flashcards app, and it's different from your usual flashcard app like Quizlet. I didn't use Anki for every subject. I only used it for subjects that have a lot of memorization to it. So I used it for anatomy and physiology and also biochemistry. Okay, so this app, Zotero, one of my professors actually showed it to me at the end of first year, and it has a Chrome extension on it to easily cite different websites. Whenever I'm doing like a research paper or whatever, I have so many different sources, and if I go to like EasyBib, half the time they say it wrong and you have to reformat it, and it takes so much time to put all like 60 of my references into EasyBib and then put it back in my doc. But what Zotero does is you can literally go to the paper, just click the button, and it adds it straight into your bibliography. Last but not least, there's this thing called Mathtype, which is an add-on for Google Docs and I think also Google Slides and some other stuff, but I mostly use Google Docs for it. And it's a really useful tool for writing equations. You can just write it with your hand, and then afterwards it automatically changes it into an equation. So this is useful for writing lab reports for physics if you do that on Google Docs. And I can tell you like so many tips in so many websites, but if someone doesn't actually put the work in, like sit down and do your homework and study, you're not going to see results. And this doesn't apply to just in academics. This can apply whether you're going into a business or you're into marketing or you're into singing. Work hard in whatever you're doing, and thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Okay, bye.